Welcome to MacroMicroCosm Literary Journal. Today we have an exciting treat. Military veteran and first-time author Ryan Young with his paranormal thriller, The Shepherd's Burden. A little bit about us. We are MacroMicroCosm Literary Review. We are part of Vreda Literary, which is a fantasy and science fiction publisher, and also does a quarterly literary journal. We are so excited to talk to Ryan today. It's such a treat to be able to sit down with an author and go through their process on their book. A little bit about Ryan. He is a former Army captain and Iraq war veteran, a lover of all things fantasy and sci-fi. He was a native of Utica, New York, and he now calls New England home. We're here to talk today about The Shepherd's Burden. It is a paranormal thriller, and it won first place in the 2020 Chanticleer International Book Awards Paranormal Awards for Supernatural Fiction category, and just got an honorable mention in military fiction in the 2021 Reader's Favorite Awards. Staff Sergeant Daniel Jeffries has returned home to upstate New York after nearly being killed in an ambush in Iraq. Plagued by the trauma of war, he struggles to find his place in a world that he no longer recognizes. He feels disconnected from his family and friends, but none of his burdens are heavier than the terrifying secret that he has kept about a mysterious encounter from his youth. When a suspicious murder occurs, he will discover that he has been given a purpose that transcends life and death, forcing him to confront his past. In order to stop the killer, he will have to make choices that will change the fate of the people he loves the most. Can Daniel summon the strength of mind and body that he once had as a soldier to face the most profound and consequential challenge of his life? I cannot wait. I cannot wait, especially knowing that there's going to be some twists in there and not knowing what those twists are. I'm going, okay, it's going to be a lot of fun to read this book. I think it's going to be one of those fun but emotional reads.
Yes, there's going to be some heavy subject matter because it does involve an Iraq war veteran. Yeah. So there's the paranormal element, but there's also realistic things that are happening with the character as well, and they kind of intertwine in and out. So
actually, I'm going to ask you now, what is the Chanticleer International Book Awards and how did you get involved in it?
So they're a company that primarily they do book reviews and different services for authors. And I guess every year, so they have a contest and in different, there's a number of different categories. So I just kind of came across it because I was just looking for ways to get my book out there, beyond just my friends and family on Facebook. And I just came across this website that had different contests that you could enter. So that's one of the ones that I entered. And it was actually pretty cool because they have several rounds. And they announce them periodically. So it started, I didn't even know that I made the first cut because I wasn't really paying attention to the website. But then I, was checking it one day and I found out that I made the short list, actually previously having made the long list. And then from there, it went to the semifinals, finals, and then they finally had a awards banquet where they announced first place winners and then grand prize winners. So I made it to one of the first place category winners, which I was pretty excited about, and seeing it was my first book out of the gate. So
that is exceptionally well, especially for a first book. Like, congratulations, full on. So when you say paranormal, what sort of paranormal are we talking about here?
Unfortunately, I can't give too much away because it's the premise, the paranormal premise kind of slowly unfolds through the first half of the book, and then you'll kind of figure out what's going on. I can say it's not a ghost story, so it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And it does involve life and death, but I want to be very careful about giving too much away because I think that the readers that have read it so far, one of the things they've commented to me about is that they can't really guess what's going to happen next. And so even the paranormal part, it seems like something you might know what's going to happen, but you don't quite know until the reveal at the turning point around the halfway point of the book.
Okay, so you can't tell us whether it's about some form of magical yeti or werewolves and vampires, or if
No,
it's
man.
jinn. I've even had a story about some form of super prehistorical Sasquatch wolf thing. Are we in kind of a monster paranormal, a spiritual
No.
paranormal?
So I would say definitely no vampires or werewolves or monsters.
Okay, perfect.
It's kind of on the spiritual side-ish, but like I said, it's kind of my own kind of unique twist.
Beautiful.
In the so it's, I can't really
No murder
kind of put it in, yeah, no Sasquatches, no
Okay.
monsters.
Okay, there we go. That's all.
Those are great. That's really not my my wheelhouse. So
all right, so different kind of paranormal that we can all feel surprised at when we get to that part of the wonderful book.
Yes.
Paranormal. I need to read this. It falls into our wheelhouse. It falls really into the wheelhouse of MacroMicroCosm as well. So moving on to some questions here. What do you want readers to feel at the end of The Shepherd's Burden? What message do you want the readers to take with them?
So first, what I want is my main goal when I started writing the book was that I just want my readers to feel as if the journey they took with me was worth it when they get to the end. And I also want them to leave with a feeling of wanting more. So I hope I was able to accomplish that. I've gotten feedback from a number of readers and reviewers that have said just that. So I hope that the people that read it do feel like that. As far as a message, I don't really have a message. I just want people to kind of just judge for themselves the characters, the events that take place. And we mentioned, being a veteran and having gone to Iraq. While this isn't obviously a retelling of any kind of true story, it does kind of give a little bit of a window into an experience that could be like something that could have occurred. And so it gives people the opportunity to maybe understand what veterans are going through, and just in a small way when they return home.
Okay. I think that's true in fiction. A lot of the time, we're not necessarily writing our own experiences on the page, but the emotions behind those experiences can and should often be present. That sense of authenticity is something so important. And when we have those emotional experiences, and when we have that kind of essence, it's worth sharing. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And actually I felt too that part of telling veterans stories isn't necessarily just telling actual things that have happened. You look to like past wars, World War II, Vietnam, even Civil War, all the way back to the revolutions. Some of the works that come onto that are fiction, and it's a way of telling that story and for people to experience it in a different way. So I'm hoping for my generation of veterans that this is one small piece of that story that will eventually be told years from now.
If you had to describe The Shepherd's Burden in 3 words, what would those words be?
I would say unexpected, satisfaction, and anticipation.
Unexpected, satisfaction, and okay. Making me feel more anticipation to read the book. This is great. Now, who was your favorite character to write?
My favorite character in the book is a character by the name of Fiona Murphy. She doesn't have a huge role in this book, but this is the first installment of a trilogy, and her character is very integral to the story. And I can't tell you too many reasons why she was my favorite. It will become apparent when you are introduced to her in this book, and then again in the next installment and the one after that. But she's a character that I'm thinking of using as a main character at some point in kind of the umbrella of this world down the line.
Excellent. Some girl power in there. I love it.
Yeah.
And I again, it's it's wonderful to have that sort of enigma around a book.
I will add one more thing about Fiona. So again, I can't really tell you she's in the story, but when I was originally thinking about that particular character, it started as a man, but then as I kind of went through my process, I felt that it would be really interesting if it was a woman, and when it actually like worked out that way, I really was excited about that character. So again, once you read it, we could talk offline if you want to learn more about it.
Excellent. Okay, I cannot wait. Does writing energize or exhaust you?
My answer to that is both. So I get energized when I'm in it, and that usually starts. So I try to make like a regular writing schedule so that I know like I can, I'm going to make sure that I, do X number of words or chapter this week or whatever. So I usually start to get in it though a couple hours before I'm setting down to write. I start going over things in my head of what I need to accomplish in that particular writing session for that day. But afterwards, it's such a rush that you kind of come down a little bit and you're a little exhausted. And I would also say that, because I'm not currently full-time making a living at this right now, I also have a day job and I have a young daughter and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it can be exhausting, but in the end, I think it does invigorate you.
Do you try to be more original, or do you try to deliver to readers what they want?
I would say I do try to be original. The last thing I want to do is to just kind of do something that somebody's already done just in the hopes that people might read it. And a lot of the times, if somebody's done something very well and you just try to do another version of it, it's going to be of a lesser product. So I try to just be true to myself and my vision of what I want the book to be, and then just let people decide for themselves. And I think nowadays too, I think people really appreciate an original story, something that they haven't heard or seen before, because so much of what we kind of consume now on TV or even in books, all kinds of different mediums, it's just the same old stuff over and over again. And I think people get a little tired of that. So you kind of catch them off guard too if you do something original and it's done well. And I think it's more satisfying to the reader too. They'd be like, oh wow, I didn't expect that at all. And that's one of the best compliments I've had so far with my readers, is that like they've said I had no idea like what was going on until it was all said and done. And it's like, wow. In fact, my 78-year-old aunt called me up the other night, and she had just read my second book, because I put that out back in July. It's the follow-on. And yeah, she said like, yeah, every time I wanted to put it down to like, rest, I would get to a part and be like, I wasn't expecting that. And then I got to go keep going and going. So book binging, I guess it is.
Yeah. Excellent. You have a good book when you have somebody go, yeah, was up till 3 a.m. reading your book, kind of damaged my life a little. Now I'm sad it's over. When's the next one coming out? You're like, got you.
Yep. Oh, that was her next question too, because like I said, it's a trilogy, so it leaves you like in another place, and you're like, oh, when's the next one? Well, they take a while. I'll get to it. But
now here's a question too. Looking at something as a series, how much of a cliffhanger do you want to leave between each book? Now, I'm not asking for spoilers. But do you feel that sense that every single book needs to kind of complete itself, so that if somebody only reads one, they still get some form of closure? Or is it a little bit more like some books, one of which being Neon Lieben by Safa Bernal that we actually just published, so that's shameless plug. It ends with a jaunting cliffhanger of, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that, because otherwise the book would have been too long. So there's a whole bunch of ways to do it. Where do you fall in that? Do you want it to be like, boom, Cliffs of Dover? Or do you want it to be kind of more of a gentle, oh, wow, yes, I want to continue with these characters?
So the way I approached it in the first two books is kind of basically the same way. So the storyline, or the main kind of like action that's going on, I guess, I don't know if that's the right term, but it kind of comes to a a relatively satisfying conclusion, and you feel like, okay, we got to the end. And then I use the cliffhanger in the prologue because that's basically my launching pad. So it's not like a drop off the cliff, but it's basically like you think it's over, and then it's almost like, the scenes at the end of the credits sometimes, and you're like, oh no, remember Magneto, he's still got his power at the end of X-Men, even after they took it away or something like that. But it is for the main purpose of, because it's a trilogy, it's set up directly to directly tie into the next one, at least in this series.
So it's more of a soft kind of like, oh, thank goodness. Oh, shoot. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
I believe in making the story, like in the individual book, kind of stand on its own, but you still want to have that connectivity. So it's like a good journey, start to finish, twists, turns, and then, but you want to get into the next one. So you have to kind of guide them in that way.
Excellent. Excellent. I love it. How did publishing your first book change your process?
I would say what it did is it just kind of, I don't know if it changed my process so much, but it kind of taught me to like what comes after, the last word is typed. It's a lot more to it than just writing the manuscript. Because, for the first, I actually finished this book in like 2018, and then I tried reaching out to agents and stuff like that, which is, it's kind of a hard thing to do. If nobody's ever heard of you, nothing's ever published. So actually I decided to take that next step and publish it myself, just for the purposes of just getting it out there, getting exposure, getting people to read it in a very easy format. So yeah, I basically learned am learning the logistics of the editing process, formatting, cover design, and now I'm kind of easing my way into marketing and promotion, because I spent most of the last year writing the second book and I didn't really concentrate too much on that. So it's just a step-by-step process. So hopefully it'll end up in a good place.
So editing for you as more of a self-published guy, what does that look like? What is your editing process?
So I do my, after it's completely written, I go through each chapter and do like my own last minute polishing. But I realized, listen, I'm not like an English teacher. I don't know all the grammar, and I certainly don't know, how books are edited in, the modern day marketplace. So I had to really kind of figure out, well, what am I going to do? So I actually stumbled on this platform called Fiverr. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Fiverr? Okay.
Yeah, Fiverr. So it's basically a platform for freelancers to buy and sell various services, editing being one of them. They do, to find somebody to do website design. So that's actually where I started. And I found this wonderful woman from, I think she's in England, according to her profile. So she had a lot of great reviews about her editing. So I just reached out to her and I bought what's called a gig, and she edited my book for me in about 3 weeks. And so I was like, hopefully that works. And then one of the contests I entered last year, which I didn't end up placing or anything, but I got a judge's kind of review back. And one of the categories was, punctuation, grammar, all the, the logistics of writing. And he gave it 5 out of 5. So I'm like, she's good. So I just stick with her.
Good. You have no idea how happy I am to hear somebody in the self-published community finding an editor. I actually just did a editorial, which is coming out, not this podcast, but next podcast, about the value of self-published authors editing and getting edited. So it is, it is impossible to do yourself. It's impossible to do the whole thing yourself. You need to have a pair of outside eyes. And not necessarily, well, my significant other / family member / friend, they took English Lit in university and they're really harsh. No, sorry, sweetie. Let's go. Let's get this editing out there. And I think it goes to prove you're winning awards with this book. It is a book that is fantastic, that people cannot put down. And there's a process that goes into that. And I'm very glad to hear that you found the right editor for you that works very well, that has a good eye for your prose, and that you're comfortable working with. So kudos to that. Thank you very much.
She was actually the first person to kind of review it too, which she doesn't, I mean, she didn't do like a formal review, but that was my first person who actually read it all the way through. And like, she gave me some really good feedback, and I was like, wow, okay, maybe this will work. I don't know. And then I started, other people started reading it, and it was kind of like the same kind of feedback over and over again. So I was like, okay, let's just keep going. But so yeah, it worked out great actually.
Now, what inspired you?
It basically was a very small idea about a character that, I mean, not even a full character that I wanted to write about. I just had this idea in my head. I don't know where it came from, but after I got home from Iraq, I was, going to be getting out of the army within like a year after that. And I just had this idea that I didn't want a job with any real responsibility. I just wanted to kind of relax. And so I had this thought in my head that, what'd be cool? What if I worked in a comic book shop, and then I lived in like a 1-bedroom apartment above the comic book shop? And that's where it basically just started, with my main character. And then, so that was just like a little seed that I planted, and it's almost like you just kind of water it every day, tend to it, start asking yourself questions about that character. And then all of a sudden you have this full like biography on them. And then you start adding other characters and all that kind of stuff. And then the premise, the plot, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it was just like a small idea that I wanted to write about.
Sweet. I can dig the wanting to live above a comic book shop. That was one of my life dreams too.
Yeah, never quite got to realize that dream, and but I guess writing about it's not bad.
It's a pretty good way to fulfill that, I think.
Yeah.
Where is your favorite place to sit down and write?
Actually in this room right here, it's our guest bedroom. I kind of use it as my office for my day job as well. So I'll usually just jump on the bed. I have one of those like husband pillow thingies that everybody has in college. Put that, and then just have my laptop, and then I just go to town.
Wonderful. You got to be comfortable. If you're going to be there for a while, you got to be comfy. It's insanely important,
Absolutely.
All right. Now, how do you balance making demands on the reader and taking care of them?
To be honest, I don't know if this is going to sound right. I just try not to think about the reader. Everybody's going to take out of it something that I might not even expect. Like everything's subjective. And people are going to like hone in on or connect in different ways to different parts of the story. So I just feel like the way I can serve my readers the best is just to kind of put blinders on and just go all into the story, all in, and just, make it work, put the little pieces of the puzzle together. And then, at the end of the day, they're going to like it or not like it. But, if I start to think about like how many different people are gonna like react this way or this way, I'll never get anything done, and it'll probably won't end up with a good product anyway. So I think just being true to yourself and your vision is being true to the reader.
What's your favorite underappreciated novel?
Oh, so actually it's a long title. So it's actually not a fiction novel. It's a work of nonfiction. It's a biography about Dr. Joseph Warren. It's called Founding Martyr, The Life and Death of Dr. Joseph Warren, the American Revolution's Lost Hero. Now, I'm not sure if the book itself is underappreciated, but the subject matter, the man himself, is kind of underappreciated in history. He was one of the main kind of architects of, the fight for the movement for independence in Boston. And the reason that he's probably underappreciated and not remembered as much as like Jefferson, Washington, Adams is because he was killed so early on it was like, I believe like almost the second battle of the Revolution on Breed's Hill. So I really enjoyed the book and learning a lot about him that I didn't know. Also because I live in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is my favorite of the original 13 colonies. Don't ask me why, it just is. And it actually inspired me a little bit. And a little tidbit here. The name Joseph Warren will be a part of the book in some way in the next one. Can't tell you how, can't tell you why, can't tell you. But
spoilers.
That name will come up again. So you can anybody reading this one who decides to read the next one, there'll be some material on Dr. Joseph Warren.
Might I say thank you for giving us non-Americans who
Oh, that's right,
what
Canada.
have
Well,
you
you guys were still part of that too, with like there's the battles up in Quebec and everything like that during the Revolution. So.
in Canada, at least, we don't learn very much about the Revolutionary War other than the fact that it happened. Um, and then we kept our king. So
Yeah.
we're still
Oh,
part of
that's
the
right. You guys
Commonwealth.
still were part of the British Empire, technically, right?
Yeah, we were part of the Commonwealth. We were part, well, it wasn't the Commonwealth at that time, it was the British Empire. I get a lot of winces when I ask this question to an author, but I'm going to ask it.
Mm-hmm.
How many unpublished and half-published books do you have?
Unpublished, well, I don't have any right now. I have one premise that I'm anxious to work on. I want to finish this, not the third one first of this series. So I don't have anything as of yet unpublished. I do have the third book in this series. The beginning and the end is pretty much set in terms of what I want to do. But I still have all the legwork to do for the actual storyline and actual, writing it.
Okay, so you have a premise for one thing and then one half finished end of this trilogy.
Yes. That's what I have cooking.
So good luck for all of us. There's more to read of Ryan Young. This is going to be fantastic. What does literary success look like for you?
To me, I would like to just make a living as a full-time author. Obviously, I want to sell as many books to as many people as I can, but just to be able to do this and not have to do something else, that would be good with me. Because then I could just basically do everything I'm doing now and just subtract the other part, and I'm happy as a clam.
I hear you have those in New England.
We do. Very good seafood up and down the coast.
Fantastic. Do you view writing as a kind of spiritual practice?
I guess in a way, because it allows you to kind of transcend your own reality, because you basically have to just go into your own head and create these worlds, these characters. So it's kind of like an escapism. It also allows you to kind of like go deep into your imagination in places you probably wouldn't normally go if you're not like writing a book or doing some kind of creative work. So, I mean, I guess in a way that is kind of a spiritual thing.
Oh, beautiful. How do you select the names of your characters other than, former revolutionary leaders?
So so everything starts with the characters for me. So I start before I even came up with the premise. I started with the characters and I build them from the inside out. So I start thinking about who that person is, what their personality is, what their experiences are. And then once I get to a place where I'm comfortable with that, I just start to think of like, well, what's this person's name? And I just kind of let my mind kind of just relax, let it flow freely, just start saying names in my head. And then I'm like, you know what? That sounds like that person. Named.
Done. There you go. I
don't
like
want to dwell too much on it, because then it's like you don't want to overthink it. Just kind of, you get to a place where it's like, your mind just goes like that. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's his name. Next one.
Next. Let's go. Okay, let's get to the writing.
A lot of people to name in these things.
Yeah, there are. And there's a lot of different ways of doing it. I've had some authors just be like, nope, random, boom, there we go. Their name is George. Why? Because it's George. Other people are like, I'm on behindthename.com and I'm searching meanings for this and I have to find a certain kind of, and then it becomes this sort of almost philosophical debate of what the name of this character is. And I can be guilty of that that debate sometimes myself. But it's so refreshing to just be like, actually, no, this name fits. This is their name. Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Wow.
So actually, that's how my wife and I came up with our name for our daughter. We were just like, let's see, Emma. We liked Emily. Okay, we'll go with that.
There we go. Done. You have been named.
You have been named.
You have been named. Now, if you didn't write, what would you do for work?
Well, I do a day job. I basically work on behalf of veterans. It involves like benefits and stuff like that. I can't talk too much about it just because there's rules about representing, your profession in public and all that. But basically, since I got out of the military, yeah, that's what I do. I work for veterans, helping them with getting their benefits and their families and things like that. So, and again, if I don't actually ever get to the point where I'm making a living as an author, it's I'm good with my day job. I can't really complain too much about it.
Beautiful. Is that because of the non-disclosure agreement, or is that because you genuinely like what you do?
Oh no, no, I really do. I mean, it's like any other job, it's a job, but it's rewarding in the sense that, you know, even if it's like a tedious day or a long day, it's like at the end of the day, it ends up helping somebody who really needs it and deserves it. So, yeah, I generally feel like connected to, you know, people who have served, and so if I have to, you know, do a day job, that's, you know, I'm grateful that I get to do that, something like that.
2 more questions left. Oh my goodness.
Oh boy.
Going through it. Do
Going
you
along.
read? Yeah, I'm trucking. Oh, there we go. Now, I believe I know the answer to this already, but I'm going to ask it. Do you read your book reviews? How do you deal with bad ones and with good ones?
So I do, and basically because like, again, my book's only been out for a year. It's pretty, you know, they kind of trickle in 1 or 2 at a time. So most of them actually have been really good. In fact, they're all pretty much like, everybody's like, it's like 5-star, this, that. But as it would happen, about a couple hours before we started this interview, I got my first, I would call it a lukewarm review. And I stumbled upon it because another person that's doing a review for me on the tour gave me a good review, a 5-star review, and she said she was going to put it on Goodreads. So I went to check it. Hers wasn't on there yet, but there was another review that was like, I was like, oh, okay. So I read it, and it occurred to me that, you know, again, even with the good reviews, I try not to get too over, you know, excited, just kind of, you know, take everything with a grain of salt, because everything really I figured out is about taste. And, you know, you could write the best book in the world, but if it's not something that somebody's interested in, or a genre they're interested in, they might not like it, you know? So, and everything's so subjective. And I got to be honest, I'm the same way. You know, my thing is, I'm not a big dragons or wizard person. Never. I don't know why. It's not about a particular work, a particular book. I'm just not into it. And I had this buddy who is the biggest Game of Thrones fan that I work with. And he was like, dude, you gotta watch Game of Thrones. It's like the best show ever. I was like, yeah, there seems to be a lot of buzz about it, but every time I turn on the TV, there's a commercial with dragons flying through the air. I don't think I'm gonna like it. But, you know, it was in I believe the last season on HBO, when they were in the last episodes. It's like, all right, I got nothing else to binge. I went through it in like 3 weeks. Loved it. At the end of it, I gotta say, still not a fan of the dragons.
Just no to the dragons. It's just not going to work.
I mean, I understand why the dragon had to be there. I like the dragon queen, the girl, the actress. She's great. But every time the dragon came out, I was like, can we just get to like Jon Snow or Sansa or whoever? I mean, he's awesome, but just do your dragon thing, move on. I get it. People like dragons. There's nothing wrong with that.
Goodbye, Daenerys, for the dragon.
Yeah, I'm not, and I want to say this, I'm not anti-dragon. You know, I'm a friend to the dragon people, but it's just not my thing.
No, and I think that's something too. I know of some people that get very bothered by negative reviews, where, you know, I think the first step is to look at who wrote it.
Yeah.
If you're writing something like, say, cyberpunk sci-fi with this kind of grit and battle and things like that, and you have someone that does exclusively cozy mystery romance novels in a tiny little small town, their 2-star review is probably an incredible amount of mad props. You know,
yeah.
To think this is the opposite person that I would have thought would have liked this book, is, you know, them giving us, or is them giving somebody a more negative review. Is that a reflection of the value of your book, or is that a reflection of their lens?
Yeah. And I honestly do that with positive reviews too. Like when I get like an overwhelmingly positive one, I'm just like, yeah, okay, guys, like, well, it's my mom, so she has to like it, right?
She's legally required to give this.
Yeah, she's legally required to like it.
Well,
so,
I
always take everything with a grain of salt. So,
yeah. I had one author that I was working with. Her mother went to see a book launch, and a reading. And her mother was sitting there very confused the entire time, just and at the end of it, somebody who did not realize that this was the author's mother went up, "Oh, wow, wasn't that so? Oh, yes, it was wonderful. Like, oh my goodness, such a really good book. I didn't understand a word of it, but I'm sure it was a really good book." It's like, oh, and then the author's like, "Oh, hey, mom." Okay. It's like, very nice, dear. What was that? Can someone I need a dictionary. Just had no idea. It's like grain of salt. We gotta look at that kind of.
Well, my mom actually did say she really enjoyed it, but she also said there's like there's a part that like maybe like it's not, I don't even know if you could call it like a full-on sex scene, like just maybe a paragraph, not even very descriptive. You would think that I wrote like a porno or something. She's like, it's very good. And then, but there's that X-rated part. I'm like, Ma, at best that's PG-13 these days, but okay, we'll go with that.
It's a fade to black, mom.
Yeah. Well, she told like some of my aunt and my uncle who were gonna read it, and my uncle was like, okay, I'll just close my eyes during that part. Just messing with her. It's like, all right.
Oh, bless her.
Yeah, gotta love mom.
Yep, absolutely. I think we're all at some point the little 10-year-olds that our mothers had right before teenager kind of ruined us. Do you hide any secrets in your books that only a few people will be able to find?
Not so much secrets, but I use a lot of I just pull things from like my entire life, like different parts of my life. So whether it's names of places or things I might have done, and so certain people might pick up on that particular reference, that name, that other people wouldn't mean anything to them. In my second book, my friend's dad ended up reading my first book while I was reading my second book. And he got really excited about it and everything. He's like, "Oh, I can't believe this." And my friend was like, "Yeah, I told you like a year ago about this." It's like, but he's an older guy, so he's like, "Oh yeah, okay." So I was like, as I was writing a scene, I needed the name of a town, and I was like, I'll just use his town. So then he in the next book, he read it and he's like, "Oh wow, did you hear? Like Ryan put the name of our town in the book." It's like, yeah, I just needed a name of a town.
But you know what? It's a big deal. It is. It's like,
yeah,
that town name that came to you. It meant enough to you that you put it in your book. And it's like,
yeah.
'Tis the mighty name of a town.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But the decisions that we make are sacred in a way. In other ways, they're completely profane. Like when our mothers decide that there needs to be pages with X-rated.
Yeah. There should be a disclosure on this.
Oh yes. Why did you not have one incredibly blank page with turn to page blah 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 blah? If you're
just like this is too much. Just turn the page. It's not that important to the story.
Oh my. Now I'm going to open this up to you. Number one, we like to put people on the spot and say that if you have a reading that you have of your book that you would like to do, or anything you would want to say about your book, or anything else that you want to answer, a question that I didn't ask you that you're like, actually, I was prepared for this question. Now's the time.
No, I mean, like I said, if you're interested in the Shepherd's Burden, the Shepherd's Duty is also available, which is the follow-on book. And then the last book will be called The Shepherd's Sacrifice. And yeah, it's like, I mean, we covered so much ground that I feel like people are going to have a good idea of, what to expect and not knowing what to expect at all, hopefully. So, but I also want to say I really enjoyed this. This was a really fun experience. I think this is my first like live or kind of semi-live interview for this type of thing. So.
Well, it was great to have you. And now if somebody wants to find The Shepherd's Burden or The Shepherd's Duty, where do they go?
So it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Google Play Books. So all those links should be available. If you need any of them, I can send them to you. And also, if you're in the North Attleboro, Plainville, Massachusetts area, There's currently 3 copies of each book at on the shelves of An Unlikely Story. It's an independent bookstore, and it's owned by the author of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid novels. So yeah, I recently did what's called a consignment. So they're agreeing to put a few copies of my book on the shelf, and we split the retail price. So I have to sell those 3 to get more on there. So if anybody needs to, in that area, just you don't want to wait for Amazon.
Now, which area was that?
North Attleboro, Massachusetts, or Plainville, Massachusetts. They're 2 towns right next to each other. So
great. And what's the name of the bookstore?
An Unlikely Story.
An Unlikely Story. Excellent. Now, if somebody wants to find you online, where do they go?
Currently, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Ryan Young Author. And hopefully within the next couple weeks, my actual website will be up, and it's www.ryanyoungauthor.com. If you go to it right now, it's just going to say Ryan Young coming soon, like WordPress. But I will be coming soon, I promise.
Oh, is that a promise? I like that.
Yes,
beautiful.
That's an absolute promise.
Now, if you want to get a hold, well, I mean, we've only got 2 out of the trilogy, so come on, we've got to keep going.
Yeah, I know.
You have to get the entire trilogy out.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to continue the conversation with Ryan Young, again, he is on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Ryan Young Author. We are on Twitter at MacroMicroCosm, that is at MacroMicroCosm, and on Instagram at MacroMicroCosm Lit Journal. We are also on Facebook at MacroMicroCosm. There's a theme running around here. Our podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Verbal, and anywhere else you can get the RSS feed. This has been Lise. I am the editor-in-chief of MacroMicroCosm. I am the one that does our literary reviews, everything like that. If you have a book you want to be reviewed, please shout out on Twitter, on Instagram, hit us up on our website at veritamedia.ca/MacroMicroCosm. Again, another theme here. Our current issue is MacroMicroCosm Open Doors. That is volume 7, issue 2. And if you have any questions that you wanted Ryan to answer and you want us to do more on him, you need to shout us out. Make sure you click like, make sure you share our interview, and then we can continue on with this wonderful, awesome paranormal mystery of a novel with the many, many spoilers that we can't share. All right. Anything else you want to say just as a wonderful goodbye?
No, just thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time.
Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Lise. This is Ryan, and we are signing off.